Plus,
Mm.
they're not as good as Shadman. Shadman's better.
I mean,
So
I
Well, it
don't.
depends
Does
on the
Shadman do
format,
well in the
right?
BPL? Because I feel like he's a longer version player only. Like
Yeah,
I
he
feel like
is.
he's just a test
He's not a
specialist.
BPL
He's
guy.
all right, so guys, welcome to the 21st episode of the Yorker. We got the same old crew temporarily when Mufi's gone. With us, you have Rinat and you have Alfred Khan.
What's
Uh,
up, guys?
hey, so it's been a week since the second test. It seems like a slow week for Bangladesh cricket,
Mhm.
but we have a test coming up very soon in 22 hours. In fact, when you guys will see this, it'll probably be into the second or third day already, unless it's over. And that could be, it just could be like that if things go down the way they did in West Indies. But this is Bangladesh, of course, so no one's expecting it to be that bad. What do you think, Alfred Khan? How do you
I
feel?
mean, I feel upbeat. I'm confident. I think that we need to target to win the series 2-0. Even if we win 2-0, we're still going to be behind West Indies in the rankings. So, um,
Oh wow,
I mean,
yeah. I mean,
we'll be just behind them. But if the West Indies goes on and gets whitewashed in their next series, they might fall below us, and we might jump back up to eighth again. But even if we beat them 2-0, we can't pass them because of that one loss against Zimbabwe. That was a big game. That was a very big loss.
yeah.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, no one's even thinking about the rankings probably. So that's very ambitious of you to target those two victories. But there is a possibility. What are our chances, Riyadh? What do you think?
Um, I think for Bangladesh, it's always a matter about how they start. If they start on a good momentum, if players are confident when they're starting, they usually play well throughout the series or throughout the game or the tournament. But if at some point our players have a shaky start, it kind of takes a while before they can rub it off and come make a comeback. So I hope that the last test win against Zimbabwe will give them some motivation, and then plus our captain's back. So all in all, they should be in a high morale, and I hope that helps them, because if they can get to a positive start, I can see them winning it 2-0, hopefully.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
fingers crossed. Knock on wood. So
right.
Yeah.
I'm a little worried about Shakib. It's just the way he came back. I don't know if he's really fit or not because I saw him in a Punjabi just visiting the Sherabangla ground and just talking with the boys. So it's kind of funny when Shakib does those things. All of a sudden, he just comes back and he's just ready and all ready to go and play.
him,
So
him and Tommy were in the dressing room during the second test against Zimbabwe. They were both in the dressing room. Um, I think Tommy was targeting to come back in that match, but his finger had and his wrist had not healed sufficiently, and then now he's been
okay,
set back with the side strain. So I hope he can come back for the second
right,
test against the West Indies. If not, that's going to be very disappointing.
yeah,
Yes. Well, the thing is, when Shakib initially got injured and when he came back from Australia, we were all thinking it could be a few months before he comes back. So
mhm,
him coming back, especially for a test series, is something I did not really expect. I mean, I could see Tamim coming back and he was all set, like Al Furqan said.
mhm,
Shakib is one. It's a surprise to me too. I think that knowing BCV, knowing our think tank, it's probably a rushed move, because I feel like they're not really confident and relying. They're not really confident with our top order batsmen at the moment. So I think he's coming back to fill a batting void more, and
Yeah.
that's just concerning because I don't know how effective he will be with the bat. I think bowling wise he'll be fine, but that's not the department we're concerned about at this point.
Right, right, and I feel that in the absence of Tamim and Shakib, we had these two spots open, so we could
Yeah,
have used them to test other guys. And the way people have been talking about Tamim and Shakib recently, that it makes you feel like that when they do come back, we're unbeatable. But I mean, that was never the case to begin with. I mean, we do have our problems, and especially when it comes to
Yeah,
test.
yeah, that's true. That's true. But we wouldn't have lost that test match against Zimbabwe if they were both there. Because you look
yeah,
at the margin we lost by was 150 runs. Tamim and Shakib, if they come back, each innings they score 20. That's 40 runs across. That's 40 runs in an innings. That's 80 runs in the whole game. And
Yeah.
then
and then you factor
Shakib
in Shakib's
bowling,
wickets. Yeah,
you can make up the other 70 runs, and that's your 150 runs right there. And Tamim
right.
and Shakib would probably score more than, well, maybe not Shakib, but Tamim would score more than 40 runs across two innings against Zimbabwe.
Right.
And our
So
batting in the test matches still is very heavily reliant on Tamim to get to steady the ship from one end. I mean, in ODI, his responsibility is slightly less because Mushfiq is there, and then Riyad is he's a great finisher there. So you have other dependable batsmen there. But when it comes to Test cricket, really,
Yeah.
Riyad is like he just scored his second century in 8 years, and then Mushfiq again, he is this kind of guy. He goes to bed crying
Oh.
if he doesn't keep. So I don't know how much we
Oh.
can rely on
Oh.
him on consistently. So
it,
Tamim is
it,
a very big factor in test matches for us.
he is, especially because the last few years Mominul has got into a well, actually he's not even got into a Joe Root mode because Joe Root for a couple of years was he was scoring 50s very consistently, not scoring hundreds, but he's getting 50s. His average was maybe about past few years, his average is maybe in the 40s, 45, 42, 43, something like that. Because Root's average was about 55, career batting average, and it dropped to 50. So that means his average was lower than 50 for a while. And that's because he was getting 70s and 80s consistently, but he wasn't pushing on beyond that. Mominul has gone into this complete. I don't know if you can even say it's a Brian Lara mode, but he'll get 150 plus, and then the rest of the series he'll barely score 20 runs in all the other innings combined. So his average is also about 40. Is this year he's averaging 40, but he has I think 12. He's played 12 innings and he has the 300s this year. The other 9 innings, I think he has an average of I think 7. He has a batting average of 7. So
Mhm.
it's a very bimodal distribution of scores for him. you know,
Right.
um,
And
Right.
it's very concerning because he was this one player we were and we still are to an extent depending on in this format especially.
Oh yeah, he
So
bats at
if
number three.
Yeah.
That's a critical
yeah,
position.
Right.
and then plus the fact that we don't have a consistent number two. So when you have an inconsistent two and three, that's a huge problem
Yeah,
because in test matches, two quick wickets can mean a lot of things.
but
So
but the thing is,
yeah,
I think the average still is okay because I mean we're gonna go because if he has 3 failures, well, what it means is that we'll lose some games because of Mominal's poor batting, but also win some games because of his big scores. Because one big score will set up the game. Um, so if he
I,
can get a
I
big score every third match, even every fourth test match,
Yeah.
that puts us in a good stead.
Right. I mean, quite
I'm
frank.
not.
Yeah. I mean, quite frankly, I don't think we have that luxury. It's just that he's a good find in tests, and I think he's our main guy coming in at 3. And uh, yeah, I mean, all the best of luck to him to get these scores. Uh, Rita, you've been hyping up Shanto, your guy, but he got the chance, but now he's been dropped. Now here's one of your other guys who's gonna come in, Shadman. But this one actually, I think more people are gonna be with you because he's got an unbelievable. Well, in the Bangladeshi context, an unbelievable first class average of 45, which is
Yeah.
not many people. I don't think anyone has that in Bangladesh. So
Actually, Mosambik still
Mossad
has
Mossadegh, right?
60 plus average in first class
I
cricket,
think
even
Liton
though
has it too. Liton
Liton
has
has
some.
Liton has
So
an
quite a
average
few
about
guys.
50. 50.
Yeah.
I see. Right.
But I think Shanto is pretty close too. Shanto, before
No,
he
Shanta's
actually
averaging a
played
40.
the game,
He has a
he was
45 first
40
class
plus.
average.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
not just 40
I
plus,
think
45 plus.
yeah,
The
Right. So
selectors
yeah.
selectors are. I know this is probably directed toward Rinat, and Rinat is gonna. I mean, I think he started the thread. The Nanu selection panel is. I'll just say two words: Farooq Ahmed, man. We need Farooq Ahmed back. Um,
yeah,
we keep picking these young players, and then they get dropped after one game or two games. And it happened with, but who gets a long run? We get hacks like Sabir Rahman, getting a long run. And Shomo, I don't know if he's a longer version player. He's in good form right now, and he might get a decent score. But I don't trust Shomo in Test cricket. The one day cricket, I think he's definitely a necessity, and it's going to be a shootout between him and Imru to partner Tamim for that opening spot. Especially with the World Cup in mind. But Test cricket, I'm not sold on him. I hope that it's going to be Imrullah and Shadman opening in the Test match. Again, at least the first Test, and then Tamim and Shadman in the second Test match. Hopefully, if Tamim is able to come back. But Rinat, why don't you go ahead?
yeah. I'm just going back to the Shadman versus Shanto topic a little bit before I get back. I don't think Shadman is more talented of a player than Shanto, but what I do think is Shadman has played more domestic games, and I think he has a better understanding of this format. He understands the importance of temperament. He understands the importance of grinding it out. I think that's
Right.
something that Shanto still doesn't get it. And for Shanto, it's been all over the place because you select him for the ODIs and then he doesn't do that well, and then he's probably still in ODI mode, and then he plays one test match and he doesn't do well either, and can't really blame him there because pretty
The
much
entire
most of the
team,
other
the entire
batsmen.
team played. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. So I think they did a very big disservice to Shanto by dropping him. Um, if you select someone young, then this is probably one of the reasons why I'm against selecting young players, because if you select them, you have to back them up
Yeah.
for a few games. You can't do this because it ruins their confidence. We have lost
Yeah.
way too many young players because of this.
Right. Right.
So it sucks.
Yeah.
I hope they don't do it with Shadman because he is a player
I
that
really
I
hope they
really
don't.
look.
We need
Yeah,
him. We need Shadman in the
we need him
Test side.
badly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I totally agree. I was only joking when I said, and I really want him to succeed. And also, I was
yeah.
looking at all the BPL squads for the last 2 years, just to scout for talent, and it's also the fact that Shadman is the last hope. I feel in some ways, because some of the other guys like Zakir, Hassan, Afif, they're not.
Those are not openers. Those are not openers
Those are
though.
not openers. Plus,
Mm.
they're not as good as Shadman. Shadman's better.
I mean,
So
I
Well, it
don't.
depends. Depends
Did
on the
Shadman do
format,
well in the
right?
BPL? Because I feel like he's a longer version player only. Like
Yeah,
I
he
feel like he's
is.
just a Test
He's not a
specialist.
BPL
He's
guy.
a
no,
Yeah.
no.
he's a
I
classical Test batsman.
I only use BPL to get the most high profile players and then seed them. And he's the
Yeah.
best guy for the first class matches, Shadman.
I mean, I'm gonna
So
try to watch BPL this year. This is probably the first year I'm excited to watch BPL because I want to see these young fast bowlers that we have.
Yeah.
Actually, Bangladesh Cricket League I think started. I was gonna check to see if Cricinfo
Yeah.
has
It started.
live scores updated. Let me see. They've got the scores up for Bangladesh Cricket League. Yeah, they're updating it live. Um, North Zone is 100 for one after 23 overs. Who's playing for North Zone? So that means Farhad Hussain, Mizanur Rahman are at the crease. The one wicket was from
Zunaid
Hassan
Siddiqui.
Mahmood, the young. I'm sorry?
I thought Zunaid Siddiqui got out. North zone. It made more sense.
Yeah,
That's what I
Junaid
thought.
Siddiqui got out.
Okay.
Yeah, Hassan Mahmoud was the one who got the wicket. Yeah. Who
Okay.
else is playing? Abu Jayed's playing in this game.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be interesting, especially the BPL. I want to see some those exactly why I watch BPL. It's more to watch the young players and most of our domestic players who we don't get to see throughout the year. So
Right.
this is a pretty good chance. But yeah, getting back to the test
Right.
squad, I
So
think
I think Shanto should have been persistent with. Also, because it's the tests, it gives you plenty of time to
mhm.
work on
yeah.
your technique. All you need is temperament. That's how I look at it, basically.
So guys, today this kind of relevant. Shanto got out for 23, um, and Liton got out for a duck.
Hmm.
Central zone is 61 for 4 right now.
Oh,
And the Seamers they've taken all 4 wickets. Shofield got the first wicket. He got Liton for a duck LBW. And then Alamin has 2 and Rubel has 1.
Yeah,
So
I mean they're not exactly proving their case, are they, to be in the squad? But
yeah,
of
that's
course,
yeah. I'm not sold on Liton as a. I mean, unless he's opening, but now looks. I mean, I think Shadman would be a better opener. Um, for the wicket keeping job, I would actually want Nurul Hassan, but he hasn't done this season. He's been doing poorly as well with the bat. And again, he got dropped. So Rinat might be right. They're ruining the confidence because Musaddek's had a very bad season. Nurul's had a bad season. Now
yeah.
it might happen
yeah,
to
yeah.
Liton now. It might
And
happen. I mean,
Shanto.
he got a duck and Shanto.
Yeah.
So yeah, the selected if they pick a young player, I mean these guys aren't going to start scoring hundreds right away. The only young player that we had who started scoring hundreds almost right away was Mominul Haq.
Yeah.
I mean everyone is not going to be Mominul Haq, and Mominul Haq, Mominul went through
Right.
he had a slump in form for a long time, and that was because very poor development I mean we didn't have any A teams tours scheduled, etc. I mean it's just a mess all around. So if
Yeah.
they're picking these young players, they need to back them,
Yep.
regardless of format.
Yep. I think we've made that loud and clear in this podcast that that's the way we should do it when
Yeah,
selecting teams. Let's talk about the middle order a little bit. Even though it's
absolutely.
kind of settled, it's just the fact that no one in the world right now wants Riyadh in the team, but he is going to be in the team. So
Hmm.
that's
Yeah.
something that should they have to deal with.
Yeah,
Yeah, here, go ahead.
I mean, I'm hoping, because I really don't have anything against Riyadh. If he doesn't perform, I hate, I can't stand him being in the test team. And I've been saying this for years because I wanted Mosaddeq to take his place, batting at 5 or 6 or whatever. But I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, I like him as a person. I mean, whatever we know of him, and I like him as a player. Look, his technique is not bad by Bangladesh standards, especially, etc. He's got ability. It's not that he doesn't have the ability to play Test cricket and be a decent batsman. Um, I'm hoping that this 100 against Zimbabwe is the spark that he needs to push his game higher. Because if you remember, his position even in the ODI team was not good at all heading into the 2015 World Cup. And then he hit that 100 against England, and then he backed it up with another 100 against New Zealand. Those are terrific knocks in the World Cup. He's the first Bangladesh, and to this day, the only Bangladesh player to have a century in the World Cup, and he has 2 of them. So that turned his one-day game around completely, and at the same time, also his T20 game turned around completely. So and he did that at a relatively late age. So I'm hoping like a wine, a
Yeah.
fine wine
No,
or something like that.
yeah,
He does well. That was the spark to kind of really light his career and propel him forward. That's what I'm hoping for him for the test.
yeah. He's a terrific batsman. He didn't take that long either when he first came into the ODI side to start performing consistently. Not as long as Mushi.
Hmm.
It's just that when people critique him, they're putting the selector's cap on basically, and they just don't see him fit into the test squad. And they also, much like you, they realized this like 2 years back, and then they saw, wait a minute, he's actually not performing in tests. So why on earth should he still be there? And the funny thing is, he was dropped in the middle, if you remember, right?
Yeah, he was. Sri
He was
Lanka series of 2017. Him and Mominu were both dropped for that historic 100th Test match, the one that we won in Colombo, in Sri Lanka last year. They were both
Yeah.
dropped, and it was actually a really because I think they had sent them home even. They sent
Yeah.
yeah, they sent them home because they were like, oh,
oh man.
their senior. Well, Riyadh is a senior player, and it's kind of insulting to not play him in a historic match. So instead of him sitting in the dressing room and feeling bad, we just decided to send him to
Right.
Bangladesh.
Right. No, I
Which
remember.
didn't make any sense. But
I mean, it's kind of. I mean, international cricket. I mean, it's not child's play. So
yeah,
should have. Yeah, there's no reason to send him back because
exactly.
like
That's
one
what
week
I mean.
later
Yeah.
they had to fly him back for the ODI series.
Right. So we talked about the wicketkeeper as well. We would like Nurul there, but he won't be. It's another one of those things. So what about the position right after that? How you guys feel about Ariful for this test?
I mean, I don't think he's going to make it. I think Shakib takes his spot.
Hmm.
Shakib's going to. I don't think he's going to make the 11. I don't know if Shomo will make the 11. The 11, guessing the 11 is pretty much is going to be fairly easy. I feel like this time around. Naeem Hassan, he's not going to play, and the selectors even said he's just a backup. Naeem Hassan's not playing.
He
So then
shouldn't.
Ariful, I think, is going to get dropped, and I think Shomo is probably also not going to play. So then the 11, we know which 11 is going to play.
I was
Right.
watching Naeem Hassan bowl. I was checking out highlights of him, and it's just
Uh,
it doesn't impress me really. Very little turn. The
His
accuracy is
his
boring.
records are impressive though. His records are pretty impressive.
Oh yeah, the
But he's
wicket
He's
just
been
way
keeping.
too
hitting
early.
really well this year. But the thing is, he's only 17 years old. He's a young kid. I like
Exactly.
because he's tall. We need a tall spinner can get more bounce from certain pitches. I
Like
mean, it's not
Razak
necessarily
used to do.
like Razak would get. I don't know if Razak got a lot of bounce necessarily. Razak was a good limited over spinner, but not really for the. Naeem
He
Hassan's
was
young,
pretty
so
good at
he's
skidding the
got some
deliveries.
potential.
Pretty good, yeah.
If we get turning pitches, Naeem Hassan will be able. Any spinner can really get the ball to turn on a turning pitch. Well, I'm not
Yeah.
going to say any spinner, but most spinners. Problem is, we play on flat tracks, and then we say Shakib can't turn the ball. Yeah, Shakib is not a big turner of the ball, but you give him a raging turner, and he'll turn the ball square.
Yeah, but he has an amazing wicket tally though. Like Rinat was saying, I think it was something like 45 wickets in 15 or 17 first class games. So which was the reason why he was selected in the first place. Uh,
He's got potential. He's got a lot of potential, and I like the fact that they picked him. Uh, and I would like to ideally see him, but I don't see a space for him in the 11. Especially we already have
right.
Miraz as the off spinner.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean bringing in Shanman and Naeem, I feel it's good. These were good decisions, but they're not going all the way. They're not like on top of that. They should get a wicket keeper reinforcement, right? But they're not doing those things. They should also have the balls to maybe sit down Riyadh and give Shanto his extended run that he deserves. So they're not going all the way with these decisions. Uh,
Yeah, they're kind of half-assing it. They're like, we're going to pick a young player, but we're not going to support him. We're not going to back him, give him the confidence to succeed. We're going to play him in one game. If he fails, regardless of,
Yeah.
we're just not going to bring him back again, and that's not the right way to do it.
you know
If you
something?
guys look at it, I just wanted to say, if you guys look at something, I think this year in every test series, we have debuted a player. So, if we do end up playing Naeem and Shadman, it's going to be another two debutants, right?
Mhm.
That just tells you that, I don't know if there's any other test team that we have right now that would debut this many
Sri
players
Lanka,
in a single year.
Sri Lanka. Every
Well,
game they have,
Sri Lanka is in a
No,
crisis mode, right? It's a
yeah,
different issue because Sri Lanka doesn't really have a core player.
yeah,
Their core bowling, Herat is leaving, so and they have had a few players leaving and whatnot. So that's a different issue. But for
yeah.
us, I mean, we have like when we dropped Abu Zaid Rahi in the last game, like I didn't know why, right? It's
No,
basically
yeah,
dropping for
no,
the sake of trying another player, which I understand. I'm
mhm.
not upset at playing for playing Khalid. He is a great prospect. But again, when you're trying to develop a player as a specialist for that particular format, you have to play them every game. Like, if you are if you really want to see Khalid playing, well, maybe you should have made a seamer track and then play three seamers, drop a spinner, because you want Khalid to develop. But dropping someone like Rahi, who after the West Indies series, we were like, this may be a player who would do well in tests, and then we play him one game where he did well. He actually bowled pretty good,
Yeah,
I
he's
thought.
swinging the ball. Yeah.
He was swinging the ball, and honestly, we don't really get a lot of bowlers, seamers in our country that can actually swing the ball. He
Hmm.
does that. So his only problem is consistency. And how do you work on that? You play him more, you give him
Yeah.
more, right? That's really the only thing,
Yeah.
and that's
Hmm.
exactly what they didn't do. So I don't know why they automatically expect him to have Mustafi's level consistency, because he's not a
Yeah.
gifted bowler like Mustafi's.
No,
But if
Mustafiz is a freak. He's a genius in that sense that he just,
exactly,
without any coaching, without any real training, he came in at age 19 and was performing magic tricks basically,
yeah.
um, with the
Right.
ball. And he'll have his bad games, off games, etc. Yeah, the Abu Jad. I mean, I can understand why they dropped him because they were like, we're playing on a surface with no assistance for seam whatsoever. So let's bring Khalid who has pace and bounce. Um, and we already have and we have to play the Fizz, so there's no room for a third seamer. Or let's go ahead and try him. I get that because after this series, our next test series is going to be in New Zealand, where we play three tests. We have three tests coming up against New Zealand in February and March, I believe.
Yeah.
So there, I would like to see Abu Jayed, and I think Abu Jayed will get a run in all three tests, unless Shorty Fool gets picked or something like that. But highly unlikely. BCB is not looking. They don't look like a group that's picking too many players under the age of 20, especially not fast bowlers. Um, so I think Rahi will get a good run there, and those will be ideal conditions for him to bowl. I mean, we'll have to see. If Bolt and Saudi are not swinging the ball, then we can say, okay, we can give Rahi a pass that he's not swinging the ball either. But
I think
you
he'll
know,
swing it pretty well, though.
I think
He,
he'll swing it pretty
yeah,
well because if you can swing it in Bangladesh, like you can probably swing it anywhere.
yeah.
Um, so and I like. I mean,
Uh,
I like.
I'm not too worried about the pace department because we have a lot of those young
I'm not.
guys coming
Yeah,
up,
I'm not terribly
and
worried about that either because at worst, we're just gonna have to okay, we just play one seamer and fizz, and that's all we have. Yeah.
I am worried about the lack of spin talent that's coming out of the country. I feel like Taijul has been carrying us when it comes to tests, and I feel like he'll once again have to carry us against West Indies because he's been doing most of the bowling, and it's just
I,
one guy. We
actually,
could
if you look at,
we could have been in trouble if it wasn't for Taijul. I mean, I think the double century by
mhm,
Mushfiq that kind
mhm.
of took the shine away from how good Taijul was in that series. Well,
Nigel was good. He kept. I mean, he was the workhorse. But Miraz gave him amazing support, and I think it's
he did,
under.
yeah.
It's not. Miraz had a better average in that series than Nigel did, and his economy rate was phenomenal. He didn't give away any runs. He built pressure from the other end all the time. I mean, Nigel was getting a hit for some sixes and some big boundaries, especially by Chari. So,
Hmm.
but Miraz was very tight, and he bowled beautifully. In the second test in Jamaica last summer in West Indies, Miraz was also bowling really well, picked up a 5 wicket haul. I think the Windies have a lot of left-handed batsmen,
Lefties. Yeah.
so Hetmeyer in particular. So I think Miraz is going to play a bigger factor against the West Indies. No, oh, boy, excuse me. I guess
Maybe
I'm
that's the cue.
no cue, no cue. I take that. I take the yawn back. But Rinat, I got a question for you. What kind of pitch do you want to see for this West Indies series? For both of you, for you and Roey, because you know,
I don't know. I really like the pitch that we got in Sylhet. I thought it was a balanced pitch. It had something
uh,
for the seamers, something
right,
for the spinners,
mhm.
and something for the batsmen too. I think it's important that we get some assistance for the seamers, because we're going to be playing three tests in New Zealand coming up,
Yeah, hmm,
and we should be setting up our goals for that series. Uh,
absolutely.
so it should have some assistance, but at the same time you got to be strategic. You can't give away and make it like a complete seamers track because it is our home, and
Yeah.
we should still play to our advantage. So should be a balance. I like the conditions in Select, so I hope they can. A lot of people did complain about it. I thought it was our players' fault. There was nothing
Yeah.
wrong with the pitch. The pitch was ideal pitch for a test match.
It was complacency. It was the fact that we were missing three key players,
Yeah,
which performed four roles because Shakib is a 2-in-1 player. So I
yeah.
think it was that. I think it was complacency. They just absolutely annihilated Zimbabwe in the ODIs and thought they would just do that in the test matches too without trying, without application.
Picked the
Um,
same squad too. Picked basically an limited over squad, and they expected
the squad wasn't terribly different in the second test. We just, I mean, yeah, there were three
it
changes,
wasn't.
but
It wasn't. But I still
yeah,
think the second, even in the second test, the squad going forward in long term, like you said about Ariful, and I also think the same way about Mitun as well. I think as a long term solution, I don't see them in the
no,
test squad.
no. I mean, I would like to see someone with better technique, more of a
Yeah.
more credentials as a top order batsman. Someone like
Even
Musaddiq or
yeah.
Shanto, someone like them. Not someone like Sabir, not someone like Ariful, who has one double century maybe. Not someone like even Shomo. I
Riyadh.
think
Yeah.
Shomo.
Maybe.
Riyadh has credentials, but he's just at test level. He's been a disappointment for so long. I hope this series he does something. He's gonna have to score another century in this series.
I hope
Riyadh,
I hope
yeah,
if I hope if he plays, he bats down the order because I kind of feel like when you give this guy the freedom, he
yeah,
starts playing too many shots. You
exactly,
gotta
yeah, exactly. He's
take
not
that
a number.
freedom away from him and then
Yeah,
play him down the order where he basically doesn't have any support from any other batsman around him,
yeah.
and he has to by force grind it out. And I
Yeah.
think he is a very good grinder, but he just doesn't do it anymore because he
Yeah,
he wants he
he
loves
bats up.
playing his shots
Yeah, he bats up in the top order. I mean, I think Miraz, I think he batted well. I mean, I don't know if it's just
very well.
Zimbabwe, but he batted very well in the series against Zimbabwe. I hope this is a turning point for him. His batting average now is
Yeah.
at about 19.
Well, it
So
has to go up. Like,
I hope that he can get it up to above 20.
I
He
think
has the talent to average
yeah.
30, 35 at test level. But for now, I would like to. He's still very young. He just turned 21. For now, I'd like to see him averaging around 25. And I
Yeah.
hope that this season, he can get it up to that level.
he can take inspiration from Mushi, I guess. Just get it up one run every year.
Oh yeah, one
Just
run every year. Yeah.
go in that direction. I just wanted to say a few things about Mitun since you brought him up.
Yep.
Uh, he's got some support, and I understand why. Because even though he might not have the technique, but he kind of every 3 or 4 innings he tends to produce these type of scores, like 50, 60 plus, 70 plus. So there's also hope for him. I feel like, you know,
For
even
Mitun, I think he played a ton of domestic games, and he is older than the rest and
yeah,
some
he
of
is.
those newer
Yeah,
lots.
Yeah.
So I think he gets it, but I just think technique wise he's gonna come short in seaming conditions because it doesn't matter how good he is temperament wise, doesn't matter how good he understands the format. I think with his temperament, I mean with his technique, he will come short.
yeah,
But I do understand why I gave him the chance because he seems to be nearing his prime and he seems to be performing in every format you throw at him. And I'm sure he's gonna rock it in the T20 in West Indies. That's the feeling I get. So, but again, I don't know. I hope he works hard on his technique though, if he plans to play in this format long term.
yeah. Now I want him to see. I want to see him in the ODI rather, because the T20 chances he got, he was a flop against, I forget which team he was debuted against, but in the ODIs he did okay. He did okay.
In the Asia Cup, he did fairly well. I think he played a couple of critical knocks. I still feel, I mean, with his age and with his talent ceiling, I still feel that Shanto and Mossadegh have higher talent ceilings, and they're much younger players. I would rather play them in Tests and ODIs than Mithun. But that's my personal bias. I like playing younger players
Right.
because I like to be
Exactly. I
able to
mean,
follow a guy because let's face it, Tamim, Shakib, Mushi, they all debuted very young. They're all players that we love to watch, and like they've been playing for over 10 years now, and they have still several years left in their career. Like,
Mhm.
it's fun to watch a group of players playing for that long period of time. And like you get this, I guess, almost an emotional type of attachment. And it's like what it's like it's like watch it's like planting like a seed and then watching it slowly grow into a big tree over a number of years. Um,
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's like you almost feel like you had some part in it. Like almost
Oh yeah, for
even
sure.
though that's not the case. But
Right.
I agree with that. And the only thing I'm going to add to that though is it's what Roy has been saying. If we are planning to do that, if we are planning to persist with players long term,
Mhm.
then we need to assign them the formats. You can't have all these young players play every format and then expect them to adapt format by format, on a weekly basis. It doesn't work like that. Even our seniors, they struggle
Mhm.
to switch between the formats. So we can't expect it. So if we want some of these guys, like let's say Musaddiq, if we really want him long term, give him a format, and I think for him the format should be the Test cricket.
Mhm.
Give him that format and persist with him. Don't even consider him for ODIs or T20s. Let him focus on that one format. I think then he has a higher chance of performing. I think we should do that with every young player. That way, we will be able to persist with them long term, and
Mhm.
I think we will actually create a lot more stability.
I mean, my thing is players should play. They shouldn't have a limit on on how many formats they can play. They should play whatever format
No,
they can play well. We have the domestics to try to figure out, is this guy a test player? Should he be a test specialist, ODI specialist, T20 specialist? In certain instances, like you have Mushfiq or Tamim, and they play all the formats because they can play all the formats as well as anyone else can from Bangladesh. So, in that sense, I'm against the special, like having a completely specialized, but there are certain players that definitely are specialists in one format or another. Like Taijul, he's definitely a test specialist. Um, so I have
Yeah,
no
I mean,
problem with that.
there are different schools of thoughts about this, and
Hmm.
I don't know. We don't have a large enough body of evidence to say who's right, but
Hmm.
I see certain teams going about this in a very specialized way. Like Australia right now, they have completely different sides for tests and ODI, and
Yeah.
England's going that way as well. So is Pakistan, uh, India. South Africa, New Zealand, not so much. I actually looked into this, and I was
Hmm.
writing this article, but I haven't finished it. But yeah, and
I
We
yeah,
can
I just
see
wanted to add though.
we can
I just
see
wanted
mhm.
we can
Yeah,
see
go
the
ahead.
next World Cup when every team publishes their 15-man squad. How many of those guys 2019 ODI World Cup and then 2020 T20 World Cup average number of players each team that they have in both formats? I feel like teams like Australia, they do it. Australia and England especially. England have started doing it recently, and that's why their ODI team has gotten really good because they finally found a bunch of ridiculously skilled ODI 50 over specialist players like Alex Hales and some of these other guys. But I feel like they do it a lot because of the volume of cricket they play. You can't have a fast bowler playing 25 ODIs and then playing 15 test matches in a year. That's just way too much. In addition to IPL and all this other stuff. It's maybe same with India, but for a team like New Zealand that doesn't play as many test matches, and for Bangladesh that plays about half the games that New Zealand plays, I don't think that we need to really worry about the workload like that. Sometimes I laugh when we're like, "Oh, we're going to rest, X player because manage their workload." What workload? We spend,
Yeah,
we'll have 4 months where we don't play any cricket whatsoever, maybe just domestic cricket. We go months without test matches. For us to worry about workload, it's a little ridiculous. I mean, I can understand why we sometimes feel that way. Like when Thaija was bowling all these overs against Zimbabwe, I was like, wow, we might need to. Thought we still have a series against West Indies coming up, but then I realized last time Thaijul played was 8 months ago. He's been sitting on his ass for 7 months. I mean, I'm sure he's a professional athlete. He's been training every day probably or almost every day. But what I was saying is he hasn't been playing high intensity, test cricket or version cricket. Last time he played was 7 months ago. Like, yeah, this guy can bowl 30 overs a day. You know, like we only have 4 test matches in this season, and so I mean, I understand why we might reflexively think we need to manage workloads, but we don't have the same workloads that the bigger countries have.
It's not managing workload, and I agree with you. I mean, we barely play, we barely play 50% of what India plays.
Yeah.
So, it's nothing to do with workload. And just to clarify on what I was talking about specializing players, what I meant is in the initial stage of their career, it's good
Oh,
to give
yeah,
them a
absolutely. I agree
specific
with you.
direction. I don't agree with I'm not saying, and I'm never going to say that a player should stick to one format throughout their entire career. Absolutely not. But when they're starting out, if you give them too many objectives, I think you just confuse them. And that's what I meant. I think, initially when they're just developing, they're trying to understand their game, their strengths, their weaknesses. It's
Mhm.
good to give them a specific objective.
Yeah, absolutely, I
And
agree
that,
with that. And like and Roey's Venn diagram that he posted, yeah, that was a very good Venn diagram.
Yeah.
He had
No,
Tamim
thank you.
Shakib and I think Mushfiq in all 3 formats. They were in the center of that one. So yeah, that was I agree with that. That I think there's some players that they have to play all formats or they should play all formats. They can adapt. So yeah, you guys are both I agree with you guys on that. I guess I was just clarifying or just making sure that
yeah, no, I'm
you know
clarifying too. I think we're all on the same page.
yeah
All
we're
three of
yeah.
us. Yeah.
All right, cool. So I think that does it for this episode. We didn't get into the squad. We took a very practical approach for this one. We kind of talked about all the players we feel like who has a chance of getting into the final 11, which is what it's going to be. Uh, so yeah, that's it. You guys have a good one, and thank you
Yeah.
guys for joining in.
Yeah,
Take care.
absolutely. Thank you for organizing it.